I am calling to order the Finance Committee meeting on Thursday, February 4th, 1st at 4 p.m. It's both hybrid in person in the trailer and on Zoom. May I have an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Peter's made the motion.
Second,
We had Stephen was first in on seconding by roll call. Jeremy,
yes.
Joe, Joe Wright. You're on mute, Joe. Okay, we can say, okay, Joe said yes. Joanna?
Aye.
Thank you. Jill? Chris?
Aye.
Rob? Stephen? Peter?
Aye.
Denise, aye. Thank you. I am going to open for public comment. Do we have any hands raised? No. Hi, Vince. Any public comment in the room? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Okay. Potential adoption of minutes from February 2nd and February 6th, 2023. Has everybody had a chance to read those or not yet? I think not yet is what I'm seeing. Okay, we'll skip that till next time or another time. All right. So today we're starting with Article 92, Home Rule Petition, an act amending the charter of the town of Nantucket to require town department heads to be town employees. Megan, it's over to you, please.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you great. Thank you, Megan.
Excellent. First, I was able to go back and watch the meeting from last week. I'm sorry I wasn't able to give it my full attention. So I tried to go through and answer, or I guess go through some of the questions that you guys had. First, I'd like to start by just saying that I have set up a meeting with the town manager for next week. She was already booked for this week, so next week was the earliest we could do. And then I had a couple questions for the FinCom members themselves. I wasn't sure if you guys have received a copy of the 2012 MOA and the 2019 NOVAC report that was put out, but it was also commissioned by the town of Nantucket.
There's someone who's
I'm
not
sorry?
on mute. No, that's okay, Megan. It's somebody that's not muted. Okay, keep going. Thank you.
And the reason for that is because the NOVAC report brings up the changes that I'm requesting with department heads under the employment contract of the town, and that's on page 21. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that. And then I also was wondering if people have taken a look at the town charter. I think it is very clear on the charter that hiring and management is for town administration department heads is the responsibility of the town manager and not the select board or other town administrative boards. So, and definitely not the regional planning agencies. Then for unintended consequences, I know that was brought up regarding the airport, the water company, school, and any boards that are currently empowered to hire and manage their own department heads and staff directly. These boards are enumerated in the charter as not being town administration boards or departments, and they are not affected by 92. So I was hoping that would clear things up on that front. Article 92 only applies to town administrative department heads. If it were adopted, the planning director could continue to report to NPEDC for transportation and regional planning, and even continue to support the planning board, but could not also oversee large town administrative department heads as a head of that department. If the town manager wished to hire the current planning director to be the director of Plus, the employment contract would simply need to be with the town, and the director of Plus could provide services to NPEDC. So if the planning director did not report to NPEDC, what real difference would there be there? And then one of my other thoughts was looking at the quoting from the NOVAC report. The report itself says that there's accountability challenges And currently appointments, reappointments, and terminations are all at the discretion of the NPDC, not the town manager. So while the MOA states the director of planning reports to the town, separately accountability can weaken the ability of the town manager to hold staff accountable for their work. It should be noted that while the NPDC establishes the director's compensation, the majority of the funding, 90% of it, comes from the town's general fund budget. The town manager should be an active participant in conversations with NPDC about budget implications and available resources when compensation is discussed. Additionally, I wasn't sure, there was some discussion about who was present during the MOA, and I was able to obtain some emails via FOIA regarding that. Let me see if I can pull that up I just want to make sure I don't miss what those actually said, but this is from September 16th of 2016. And in it, the select board members are asking these questions. Specifically, it was Jim Kelly who asked town council about the MOA. And town council's response was, Jim, I'm not familiar with any history involving the MOA. That came from an attorney for KP Law, specifically John Giorgio. So I don't know. I know there was some discussion regarding that. What other questions were there?
So Megan,
sorry.
what would be
Yes, ma'am.
helpful? What would be helpful right now? This is Denise. What would be helpful right now would be if you tell us what you're trying to fix with this article. What's the reason that people would want to make a positive recommendation for this article?
Sure. I think it is that all department heads should be under the town manager. And I think you have the Novak report, which was commissioned by the town, saying that. And I think you have the concerns that the FinCom had last week. I think I just answered those questions.
Okay.
And I think it's important that we give the town manager the tools to be able to hold people accountable, department heads accountable, because the town manager cannot effectively manage department heads if she cannot determine contractual hiring and firing. And those contracts should be with the town of Nantucket, not with a state agency. It's unclear to me why the town is organized this way. I think Stephen mentioned the org chart last time. And I don't know if the FinCom has seen that since, but it's unclear to me why it's organized that way. And I don't know why we would be having a state agency telling us how local matters should be handled. So,
Okay.
So
Thank
I guess
you.
that would be it. And I don't know if I've just created further questions or if I answered questions from last week.
Before I go to the next person, is there anything you want to add before I call on Leslie Snell or Mary Longacre, whichever wants to speak?
Sure, go ahead. And if some
Okay.
questions come up, I'll raise my hand.
Great, thank you. Oh, I'm sure we'll call on you again, Megan. Thank you.
Denise, can I suggest that John Giorgio might offer any opinions on Megan's statements before Leslie and I go forward? That may be helpful. I'm just making a suggestion if you want to go that way.
Sure. John, do you want to add, or do you want to?
Yes.
What Mary said.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So if you look at the warrant, Article 92, it shows the text that is being proposed to add to the charter. And that text addresses only, in two different places, only the issue of whether or not either a department head or an employee who works for the various boards listed in the charter can have a town contract, can have a contract with another agency, board, or commission. Now, it's important to understand that I heard what Megan said, but this warrant article does not accomplish what she's trying to do. Okay? If Megan wants to ensure that the director of Plus is appointed and accountable directly to the town manager, two things have to happen, neither of which are set forth in this article. The first would be that the commission's enabling legislation would have to be amended to take out any ability of the commission to hire the director or the assistant director. And in addition to that, the charter would have to be amended to expressly bring Plus under town administration. And thereby the director and the assistant director would be employees of the town, which they currently are not. So those are the two things that have to happen here to accomplish what I believe is Megan, or the petitioners, I should say, what their goal is. However, I don't think there's any motion that could be made under this article to accomplish that objective. Trying to amend the special act, trying to amend the charter in a different way than what is currently proposed would simply be beyond the scope of the article.
Thank you, John. Leslie or Mary, did you want to add anything?
If I can,
Okay, Mary Longacre. Mary, could you come to the table, please? And while you're doing that, I did look up today town administration departments, and town administration is building, finance, fire, health, island home, marine and coastal resources, rather, police, public works, and visitor services department, not Plus. It's not a town department. Just so we're clear. Okay,
thank you, Denise. Sort of in that vein, I want to clarify what the NPNEDC is. It is, as has been mentioned, a state-created agency. It's not an arm of the town. The NPNEDC, through the memorandum of agreement from 2012, provides the services of its director of planning to be the department head of Plus. The NPNEDC does not supervise the activities of Plus, and the director of planning is not a town employee, was the assistant director of planning. And the transportation manager, who was mentioned in the previous meeting, is an employee of NPNEDC, not of the town. And that salary is paid by state funds, not by town funds. So the complaint from the previous meeting, which was that the town manager did not have full control over the contract offered to the transportation program manager, is irrelevant because there is no reason for a town employee, for the town manager to direct the NPNEDC in how it hires its own employees when it's not even using town funds to pay that employee. I'll further note that we did take into account many of the suggestions from the town manager in drafting that contract. So it's not as if there was a standoff or any hostility in that sense. The NPNEDC and the town work collaboratively together to accomplish the goals of serving the town of Nantucket. It is confusing because the same person is both the director of planning and the director of Plus. But the MOA clearly states that the director of planning reports to the town manager in regards to the supervision of the activities of the Plus department. The NPNEDC does not supervise the Plus department. And there's been a persistent misconception that NPNEDC has responsibilities and authority that we simply do not have. It's the director of planning in their role as the director of Plus that supervises the Plus department. We have no control over that activity from a commission standpoint. That activity is under the aegis of the town and the town manager. There was also a comment about nobody else does it this way, and that's not correct. There are other towns in Massachusetts that receive planning services from their respective regional planning agencies. This is not an uncommon arrangement. In fact, in the MOA, it says that the commission has been performing planning and zoning services to the town since its creation by the Acts of 1973 for several years without a formalized agreement. So in 2012, one of the aims of this document was to formalize the agreement that we already had with the town. The town was doing some other things at the same time, but this document should be seen as, writing down what we were already doing and, putting some very clear terms around it. And I think it's been also mentioned that, this document is coming up for review, and PDC is reviewing all of its foundational documents. This happens to be our 50th year. 2023 was our 50th year. And it's a review we undertook several years ago, and we're getting through as there are a number of large documents that need to be changed. So this is in that process. So I'll take questions, but I would agree with Mr. Giorgio's assessment that this article, as proposed, does not achieve the aims of the petitioners. I would further state that their aims are questionable in whether or not what they're asking to be done should be done. And the confusion that would result would be a detriment to the town. There is also a case right now where the town has hired a firm to provide services to run our island home. And there would be a question if this article was passed as to whether or not that contract would need to be nullified. The water company and the airport were also mentioned. I'm not sure what the legal implications for them is. But I would be very concerned that the island home could be affected by the passage of this article.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Questions from the committee for Mary or Megan? Oh, John, I'm sorry.
Yes. I'm sorry, Denise. Thank you. Thank you, Denise. I'm sorry. So this article has two parts. It amends section 4.4 by saying that none of the boards listed in 4.4, I'm sorry, a department head cannot, I'm sorry, because this gets confusing, but what 4.4 says, it lists a bunch of different boards, commissions, and agencies, right? From the Board of Appeals through the Shellfish and Harbor Advisory Committee. What this amendment to the charter says that basically no town employee can have a contract with any one of those boards, commissions, or agencies listed in section B of 4.2. So what does that mean? That means, just as an example, the Parks and Recreation Commission could not have an employment contract with the recreation director. Now, that is completely nonsensical, because the Parks and Recreation Commission, indeed, all of those agencies listed, have no contracting authority at all, let alone the authority to enter into an employment contract. So if this were to pass, it would be a complete nullity. It would only create confusion at town meeting and thereafter. It doesn't accomplish the objective. However, the second part of this amendment amends 4.5, which is specifically regarding department heads. And that says heads of town, the amendment would add, heads of town administration departments shall not hold or enter into employment contracts with any board, commission, or agency. What does that mean in the context of section 4.5? The select board approves contracts for department heads. Does that mean that the select board would not be able to have an employment agreement with the chief of police, the fire chief, the finance director, all those department heads that currently have employment contracts. I'm sure that's not the intent of the petitioners, but I fear that that provision could be very destructive to the efficient administration of town government. And I would not recommend that this article be considered without major changes, which I guess we would have to do, could be done either at a fall special town meeting or or next year's annual town meeting. But the way it's written, the first part is ineffective, and I fear the second part could be interpreted to prohibit employment contracts with department heads.
Thank you, John. Any questions from the Peter Schaefer?
Yeah, I'm just, the fact that John's saying that it's invalid to begin with, the fact that they haven't spoken to Libby yet, and the fact that I really don't understand why they care. I just think that either we have to wait until after they talk to Libby, or we should
Yeah.
vote on it today. This is what I would recommend. I'm not making a motion, but we should perhaps vote on it today.
Be able to get to a motion. I think I have something that will end up with a question for Megan.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
So I'm looking primarily, the notion that the heads of town administrative departments shall not hold or enter employment agreements and contracts with any board commissioner agency. I can't understand why that's an inherently bad thing. And, I'll use maybe it's a fanciful example, but maybe we need a department head of PFAS. And maybe Mark Willett is the right guy to do it for 10% of his time. And there could be an MOU with the water department, and that makes all the sense in the world, right? It's hypothetical, but one can envision it. Why would we restrict our ability to do that, which I think is what this intent is, would be to say we can never do that. I just can't understand what's wrong with this. So if there's nothing wrong with it inherently, it seems like it's speaking to specific performance under the current MOU. And to me, that's a select board and a Libby issue. If they don't like the way the MOU is working, if they don't feel like they're getting the accountability and what they signed up for, they'll figure it out. That's their job. So I just don't understand. So I guess trying to turn that into a question for Megan is, what is inherently wrong with heads of town administration departments holding or entering an employment contract with a board commissioner agency if it makes business sense or municipal sense?
That just another data point. On February 20th, the select board and the NP and EDC are sitting down to do a workshop to talk about all things between them, including the MOU. So this is on the agenda for the NP and EDC and the select board.
I'm reminded a little bit of the EDC conversation we had a year ago.
Yes.
About citizen article wanting to sort of manipulate how within that office things are organized and run, and we spent about 20 seconds on that, our
Right,
discussion, because
right.
that's what it deserved.
Right. Okay. Other questions?
May I answer his questions before moving on to more?
Sure. Please, Megan.
Okay, absolutely. So this article does not inhibit the director of planning for working for NPEDC and having a contract with NPEDC or like you said, the water company. It's requesting that department heads have the contract with the town first. And that's fine. Again, the town does pay 90% of the funds for the director's salary out of the town's general fund budget. And that comes straight from the Novak report that the town commissioned. So it doesn't prohibit. And if the director, if Mark Willett wants to give 10% of his time to a PFAS group, that's not prohibited.
I'd make an observation about the Novak report that you keep referencing, Megan, which is, it was done in 2019. It's 5 years old. If this was the best idea ever coming out of the Novak report, I would have thought the select board, the NP and EDC, and the town manager would have implemented this before now.
I would have thought that as well, which is one of the reasons why I've been pushing for the meeting between the select board and NPEDC since last summer, and it is just now coming to fruition. Additionally, I circulated a petition among citizens requesting that happen and presented it to the select board. I've been asking and asking and asking for this to come before the select board, to come before the NPEDC. And I think you can see if you pull my emails to the select board and NPEDC that I've been doing this for a while. I've been trying to figure out how to make this a more efficient form of governance because it's not very efficient right now.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Rick, Rick, I'll go to you, Rick Atherton, and then I'll go to Hillary. And I'm going to ask everybody to be 3 minutes or less because we need to move on. We've got quite a few topics tonight.
Denise, thank you.
Welcome. Nice to see you, Rick.
My name is Rick Atherton. I think most of you know, I was a member of the select board during the period this arrangement between the select board and NP and EDC was agreed upon and formalized. I was also a member of the finance committee when Curtis Barnes put an article into town meeting requesting simply that the planning director report to the town manager. At that time, just to be open, I felt the issue was one that should be resolved by the select board and the town manager and worked out between them and the NP and EDC. I think it's clear the discussion today has bogged down into all kind of technical issues, and John Giorgio makes some good points, and lots of people, I think, can be diverted from what I think is the real concern here. I think the select board ought to be very interested in making sure its planning director is aligned with its town manager and the interests of the select board as put through, for example, through their strategic plan. People, I think, pay attention to who their direct supervisor is, who's arranging their contract first, and that's where their loyalty is. I think that's in the town's interest. So one way to think about this in a simple sense is just to reverse the roles. If you want to have a formal agreement, that's fine, but the planning director should be a town employee reporting to the town manager. That person can, and I would just set aside the warrant, the citizen article, and that person can help the NP and EDC in ways that are appropriate and agreed upon between the parties. I would suggest that the finance committee sort of delay any further decisions on this until there is a manager with a meeting with the town manager. That may help resolve this, or until after the meeting on the 20th. I'm not sure how that's going to proceed, but I think that all would be helpful so we don't get bogged down, because this really is an important policy matter. Land use is perhaps the most critical responsibility of the town manager. It indicates how we develop ourselves, where residential properties are going to go, where commercial properties, and it also supervises the support staff for the Historic District Commission, for example. So I think those are all things that belong in the bailiwick of the town with the support, hopefully, of the NP and EDC. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Hillary?
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much. I agree with what Rick said. I think there were a lot of technicalities which could be easily rebutted. This isn't the forum. I don't have the time to do that. But for the services of the Finance Committee to town meeting, it really is about, well, what are we trying to accomplish? I mean, that was the first question you asked. What are you trying to accomplish? And I think what the petitioners are really concerned about is that this agreement, which is now 12 years old, created a bifurcated government and a lack of accountability. It was called out, Denise, as you pointed out, in a 5-year-old document. And the 5-year-old document made a lot of recommendations, and none of them have been acted on because there is no accountability. There's just no way to make sure that they get acted on. So there has been a sincere effort on the part of various petitioners to try to call this to the attention of the select board, who could resolve it. I mean, the select board put this into place and they could undo it. But at some point, it is town meeting's responsibility to govern in a legislative way. And that's what's happening with this petition. This petition is saying that we have a bifurcated government. We have department heads, not employees, department heads who don't have employment contracts with the town. And all the folks in the room, you've been in big companies and you've been responsible for P&Ls. Imagine if you had someone who ran half your company and arguably the most important half, and you could not hire or fire that person. You could not set the salary of that person. I think most managers would agree that that's a really difficult position to be in. So the petitioners are trying to call this to the attention of the Finance Committee and to town meeting, which is this legislative body, as you all know. So I think this bears a lot of thought and should not be dismissed out of hand. And I do think that it would be worth waiting to see what happens at the joint meeting. And thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, Hillary. Stephen, and then let me go to Stephen first, and then Leslie, I'll come to you. And then I'm actually going to ask the committee how much more discussion we need to have on this. So, but Stephen, go ahead.
So through you to anybody, can somebody enumerate who are the department heads who don't have employment contracts with the town?
There are no department heads except the head of Plus that doesn't have no town administration department heads. We're only talking about town administration department heads. And although Plus isn't mentioned in the charter, it was created as a department. And it's the only town administration department that doesn't have, where the head doesn't have a contract with the town.
It's not a town administration department, Hillary, according to the charter.
I know, but the charter is honestly out of date. I mean, it wasn't updated.
You can't have both here. So, Stephen?
So we are talking about one position because, what I keep hearing is department heads and contract.
Madam Chair, I think you should ask the town manager that question.
Okay, we will, John. Hold on a second. Let Stephen finish. Did you get to finish?
That's it. I mean, I'm still fact finding. We started last week and I think
Okay.
now we've finally laid bare what this is about.
Okay, Libby, would you want to respond to John's request of me to talk to you?
Sure. So if the question is, what town administration department heads have contracts? It's the town manager, the finance director, the fire chief, and the police chief.
And so if I pull up my little list that I helpfully printed off today. Visitor services,
Nope. No one except those four that I mentioned has a contract.
contracts, but visitor services is an employee of the town of Nantucket.
Correct.
So we're not, yeah, so we're getting confused between what's a contract and who's an employee. So, all right. So let's ask it the other way, which is where I hope Stephen was going, so effectively, the director of planning, the assistant director of planning, and the transportation manager are employees of the MP and EDC, our regional planning agency, and everyone else is an employee of the town, and some of those employees of the town have a contract. Is that-
Except for the water department, the airport, and the school.
Okay, thank you. All right. Leslie,
Do you want me to come over to the table?
yes, please. Welcome to the table.
Could be a game show.
Yes,
Welcome to.
come on down.
All right. well,
Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment on a couple of things. First of all, I think Stephen got at the point, like this article is clearly targeted at the director of planning position. The petitioners have said that it's about governance and control and the town manager overseeing all department heads and having contracts with those department heads. But the article doesn't include all department heads. It doesn't include the school. It doesn't include Wannacomet Water, and it doesn't include the airport. So that's not all department heads. It's including the director of planning. And the concept that there's no accountability is completely misconstrued. Through the MOU, the director of planning is accountable to the town manager for all of those town administration departments that are mentioned in the charter. We regularly meet and talk about whatever's happening in the department as needed. And the town manager is required to sign off on any hires within the department. So she is consulted All of the employees that are under town administration, except for one, are part of the union. So all of that's governed by the collective bargaining agreement. I believe, and maybe John Giorgio could correct me, but a director of planning that was under town administration would not even be eligible for an employee contract anyway. That's why only certain employees have employment contracts. The Novak report, which has been brought up several times, is old, it's dated, it was a very different time in the town and in the Plus department. And the Novak report was commissioned town-wide. It's been, sort of insinuated that it was just to look at Plus, but that's not the case. It was for
Plus
other
townwide,
departments
yeah.
as well. And I do take issue with the characterization that the suggestions in the Novak report have not been done. They have been done as applicable and as they made sense. And I think that the Plus department is run and has been run by the prior director very efficiently. Talk to anyone in the public. I think they will tell you that those services have improved dramatically over time. And I haven't heard of any actual issue being identified that this article would correct or address.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Okay. Joanna?
Yeah, I'm listening to all of this and I feel like we've heard this in a couple of different packages. But the question that I have, or the observation that I would make, is that in other communities in Massachusetts, there are regional planning commissions. And that is because the towns don't have the budgets to hire for some of these specialty positions. And so they contract with those regional planning commissions to get those services. And I think that Nantucket, being as special as we are, we only have one town. And so this, in my mind, is a way to accomplish that activity or that service versus some way to get around having this person report to the town manager. I mean, I guess, John, that's really probably a question for you. I mean, I think this is a function of us being a unique situation, Nantucket, where, we're not regional, we're one town.
Thank you, Joanna. John,
Nantucket-
yes, please.
Thank you. Nantucket, for many reasons, is what I call sui generis. Okay, meaning you're unique, to say the least, and not the least of which, Joanna, for the reason that you've stated. The MOU is essentially a contract for services.
Yeah.
Whereby the Planning Commission provides services. They have two functions. They have planning, which they perform on their own, and then they provide services for the Plus department. And absolutely, that is the norm, if you will, although admittedly Nantucket is a unique situation. I would like to address one question that Leslie had, if I may.
Please.
As I've said from the beginning, if the petitioners want to accomplish what they want, this article will not do it. They need to come back with an amendment to the special act, which cannot occur at this town meeting, and they need to amend the charter. And the question was, well, could you even have if the town were the employer of the planning director, could there be an employment contract? Well, you know what we would do? We would expressly put in that amendment, the ability of the town to have an employment contract. Because Libby is correct, there are only certain positions by law that allow for employment contracts, and it does not include the planning director at this point. So, it's a very interesting policy question. You can argue this back and forth, but this is a meeting to discuss a warrant article. That warrant article is legally defective. It doesn't accomplish what the petitioners want to accomplish.
Thank you, John.
I don't think there's any reason to wait for the February 20th meeting because it's not going to fix the problem.
Thank you, John. I got there on my own, believe it or not. So,
Denise, may I just add one quick comment?
in a minute,
Be
Meg.
quick.
No, you can, but I just, Joe Wright preceded you, so let me
Oh,
go.
sorry.
And then you can talk after Joe. Thank you. Go ahead, Joe. You're
What I'm
muted.
hearing is that this may or may not, there may be a nub of a reasonable idea here, but as John says, the way it's formatted doesn't work. And I don't, my feeling is we spent a lot of time talking about something that doesn't work.
Thank you, Joe. Megan, go ahead, and then I'm going to ask the committee for a motion.
Sure. I just wanted to add that the MOA says Plus is a town administration department. I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to close the public comment section at this time and ask the committee if they have a motion. Peter?
Motion not to adopt.
Second.
Okay, Peter made the motion not to adopt. Jill made the second. Is there further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll do roll call. Joe Wright?
Yes.
Thank you. I should write just in case we. Okay, Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Jill, Chris,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Stephen.
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Denise, aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Mary. Okay, now on to Article 74. Megan. You're up again, please.
Sure. Again, I'm not going to waste the FinCom's time. I think the article speaks for itself, so I am happy to try to answer any of your questions you may have.
Okay. Questions from the committee? Jill.
Megan, it's Jill. I'm curious about your article only, because I think you wanted the town to spend money when it was suing the developer. And now you don't want the town to spend money with anything related to this. So I'm trying to figure out, is it about legal fees? Is it about the town buying units? I just thought maybe we could enlighten this a little more.
Well, the town is no longer a party to any litigation involving us, so it has nothing to do with legal fees. It would be moving forward in the future.
But legally, what if they are entering into that and they did spend money previously on that? So what if there were other lawsuits or you talking about buying units? I'm just trying to figure out.
Sure, it could be about buying units. It could be about any future funding source going towards that development, because I think the citizens of the island have spoken very clearly, and the silent majority has said that it's not a project that they are in favor of.
But how would that work if there were future lawsuits that the town was part of?
That's a great question. I don't have the exact answer to that. I believe this would request that no funding source be given to Surfside Crossing.
Thanks.
Stephen was first and then Peter. Stephen?
Thank you, Denise. So through you to Megan, if Surfside Crossing is reimagined, or if it returns back to the 56 unit development that was approved by the ZBA, and town through the Affordable Housing Trust or through any other arm wants to buy down the purchase price of some of those units so that they're permanently affordable year round. It seems to me that your article would make that impossible. Is that the intent?
The intent of the article is to prevent future spending on Surfside Crossing. I guess if the Affordable Housing Trust wants to spend money on it, don't they have to go back to town meeting to request that anyway, at which point it could be brought up?
No, I don't think the Affordable Housing Trust does have to do that.
No.
Right.
So Stephen, I don't have the exact answer for you on it then.
Well, so if you don't know if this is gonna restrict money from being used for lawsuits or for buy downs, what type of spending do you intend to restrict?
I would like no more taxpayer funds to go towards advancing Surfside Crossing.
Where's advancing sorts of pricing? I don't have the text in front of me. Is that what the article says?
It's, I have it here if you want to.
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
See if the town will vote to require that no town of Nantucket funds or funds under the control of the town of Nantucket be paid to any developer involved with or used to acquire any units or interest in, or otherwise used to support in any way, directly or indirectly, any development, project, construction, maintenance, or operation thereof, or the like located at or in any way related to number 3579 South Shore Road and 20 Mycomber Road in the town of Nantucket. We're actually there too.
So that says units and yeah, that sounds like it explicitly does get at buying units and buy down units.
Mhm.
So I mean, that would be very unfortunate. Something, in all likelihood, something will be built there. And, you know, maybe it goes back to 56 units or it's some higher number. But something's going to be built there. And if we don't have any mechanism or any latitude to try to make those permanently year-round or affordable, I think that would be a major loss. I mean, I think one of the concerns that I hear in the community is that it will be seasonal residents, or short-term or something like that. And the developer may choose to do that unless there's some subsidy, and the source of subsidies is the town.
No. 40B,
What's that?
it's a 40B.
It's a 40B, so 25% of the units have to be affordable, 25%.
Yeah, but yet there are other subsidies from the state. I mean, that is what a 40B is, right?
That is not what a 40B is. I mean,
That's part of it.
there is an opportunity. Somebody could go get low income housing tax credits and, you know, advertise nation or statewide and get, you know, but to get to the middle income, to the 240% AMI, things that the Affordable Housing Trust has recently identified as the greatest needs area, we couldn't do that. There's no state or federal funds available for those people.
Yeah, I know that, well. Yeah, I understand that, but we don't control that lottery either. So you're,
For what lot?
who gets those units? Like, I don't think we get to control that, like, as a town. I don't know, I guess I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, Steve.
Yeah,
It's
so
just about the money that
So a 40B, you have the 25% of the units that have to be affordable.
I'm aware.
So if we want more than 25% to be affordable or year round or dictate anything, where we're gonna need to pay for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not even really what it's, I hear you, and I'm not trying to limit what they're doing either. I don't think that's the.
But I mean, that is the crux of.
That's the crux of this article.
Strategy of affordable housing.
She doesn't want them to buy units and.
Or buy down
But
units.
we already know that the AHTF can't do that. They already have the money. They don't have to go back to the voters for the money to do.
It's, they're a town department.
Yeah, I think we're hamstring the affordable housing trust from doing what it might otherwise want to do. I see John Giorgio.
John?
He can save us from ourselves.
Yes, John, go ahead, John, please.
I'm sorry,
Please
what
don't.
was the specific question?
So is the Affordable Housing Trust part of the town of Nantucket?
I think with all due respect, Madam Chair, I think the question is, can the Affordable Housing Trust spend money that is available to it without needing a town meeting appropriation? And the answer is yes. If they have the money, the statute allows them to spend it for the purposes for which the trust was created. Now, the other thing is, nobody's mentioned this yet, but this is a non-binding vote. Okay, town meeting's role is appropriating money. So if the town wanted to appropriate money to buy down units at Surfside Crossing, it would have to come from an appropriation approved at town meeting. And to just have a non-binding article, which maybe to some sounds really good, it doesn't mean anything. It's non-binding.
Okay, thank you. Jill, then Chris.
But again, I'm just clarifying so that Megan understands that Affordable Housing Trust can do things without going back to town meeting because the funds are already available to them. They can lend people money to go buy units, and I don't think that any of that is gonna fall under our article.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
So just recognizing that it's non-binding anyway, would, as written, would this prohibit, even within the 25% of affordable units, the Affordable Housing Trust providing down payment assistance to someone buying, because I think that's another big function they do even for those people buying affordable units, giving them grants for down payment assistance. I think this would prohibit that too. It would probably limit the ability of people to take advantage.
So it's any way, directly or indirectly, so that.
Yeah,
Right.
John, my question actually, John, before
Yeah.
was, is the Affordable Housing Trust, I realize they don't have to go back to town meeting to be able to spend money. However, this reads, and again, I understand it's non-binding, but no town of Nantucket funds, which is what funded the Affordable Housing Trust. Is that qualified under this? That's what I was trying to ask.
Well, potentially, I suppose it could, but the statute and the town bylaw and the trust document that created the Affordable Housing Trust would trump anything in this article.
Okay, thank you. All right, Tucker, and I'm going to ask you to be brief, and same with Christie.
I will be very brief. I 100% support what Stephen Morey and Chris Glowacki said. Thank you.
Okay, that was brief. He gets the brief medal for today. Christie?
I like it better.
You
Tucker
always.
said what I was going to say, so I'm even more brief.
Okay, thank you. I forgot what the two of you said. No, I just. Okay. Any further comments or discussions from the committee? In which case I'll close the public comment. But just before I do that, Megan, did you want to add anything else before I close the public comment? Is she there? She might be gone.
Sorry, I just couldn't get to mute fast enough.
That's okay.
Unmute. Thank you guys for your time. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing what town meeting has to say as a consensus building on this.
Okay, thank you, Megan. I'll close the public comment then and ask the committee if they are ready to make a motion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Chris made the motion not to adopt.
Second.
Peter seconded it. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I will roll call. Joanna?
Aye.
Let's see, Jeremy?
Aye.
Thank you. Joe?
Aye.
Thank you. Jill? Chris? Rob? Peter?
Aye.
Stephen? Am I missing anyone? Denise, aye. Who did I miss? Nobody. I got everybody. Okay, thank you. All right, motion not to adopt. Okay, now, thank you, everyone. On to Article number 1. Yes,
I presume the water department's budget.
today?
Station. Yeah, it was for today.
I thought we moved it to the 8th. I see it's on there.
It-
Okay,
It's sewer is on the 8th. The
yes.
water was
I
moved
thought we were
for
gonna move
today.
them both to the 8th. Okay, all right.
Oh, except for Mark, if he wants to come back.
No, we'll just go ahead, Mark, sorry.
No, it's
Didn't-
okay. If it's better for the 8th, I can do it whenever you like. I can be brief. It's almost the exact same budget as last year.
Okay, let's go ahead and go through it, Mark, because you're here and I don't want to bring you back again. No sense in treating you like the budget yo-yo. So,
So the goals and initiatives are all kind of the same. They're multi-year projects. One of the big ones for us is the new well we're getting installed. The well is installed. It has been tested. It's PFAS free, so that's a good thing. Right now it's in the permitting stages, which could take up to a year at Mass DEP. Once we get the permit, then we'll start construction on the pump station itself. Operating wise and revenue wise, like I said, it's almost a mirror image of last year. For what we're seeing service wise, We put in 140, 150 services last year, and what we're looking at this year with a big project on Old South Road, actually a few projects on Old South Road. Whatever happens at Surfside Crossing, we know that's going to be coming in, so we added that in there. Payroll is almost the exact same. Operating budget is actually a little bit less. Not much, $5 or $6 grand. The big increases that we went up are supplies. The whole supply chain issue is getting better, but inflation, when the prices got driven up for the material we purchase, I don't ever see them coming back down. So that line item, if you notice in 24 and 25, it's a big increase for our budget. Also, professional services for our lab fees with all the extra sampling we've been doing. And part of the increase for this upcoming year in professional services, we're updating our groundwater model, our 3D groundwater model. That's going to have a fate and transport portion to it. So if we know there's an area of the town, like a Tom's Way or wherever, that has a PFAS contamination problem, we can put that into the model, run our pumps, and see what happens to it. Figure out the fate and how it's going to transport itself through the aquifer under pumping conditions. Other than that, none of the numbers really changed. Everything else is pretty much the same.
And so you're on operating and capital now, please, Mark.
So capital's going to get a little tricky. We do have our 10-year capital plan, but our last 3 projects have all been one we did in Matacasham Valley with the airport, the one we're doing west of the airport, and the one on Tom's Way are all PFAS related and were not in our capital plan. With the new regulations of the Board of Health, where every private well is going to sample before a house sale for PFAS, I think my capital plan is going to be chasing down PFAS. I'm going to be going where we need to go to get people safe drinking water. So we do have things in the capital that we're going to continue to do, still plan to do, like our hydrant modernization program. I actually met with the chief the other week, 2 weeks ago, and talked about getting our hydrants all upgraded and painted and color coded so they have a good fire flow. And we're still in the process of getting a structure built out back to store all of our pipe and fittings and stuff to keep them inside. In the years to come, I'm going to be changing the capital plan a little bit more based on expanding where we need to based on contamination that we find.
Okay, thank you. Jill and Rob, you had the lead on this. Any questions for Mark? Jill?
Sure, Mark, what is probably in here, and I didn't see it, I'm sorry, but what's the peak summer load for how much you're pumping in the summer?
So the calendar year, not the fiscal year, but our calendar year, which works out the same if I did fiscal year, was the biggest year we ever had. We did 736 million gallons. So in July and August, we did over close to 300 million in 2 months. So we pumped a lot of water, sold a lot of water this summer. One thing to note that I did in our revenue side, I didn't project, even though we have 150 new customers. At the time when I put these numbers in, I know we don't look like it now outside, but state has designated Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard in a level 2 drought. Even though it's winter, we still have to try to conserve water. So I was very conservative in revenues for this budget, how much water I can sell. If we remain in a level 2 drought going into the spring, I will probably have to regulate what people can do with outside water use. So we wouldn't be selling the water if I'm not allowed to pump it. So I had to adjust those numbers a little bit just to be conservative in case we get there. I'm not saying we are going to be there. We've got a lot of rain in the last 2 or 3 weeks, so it's getting better, but that's still a possibility.
Jill?
And one more question about, so what did you say, 4 million gallons a day? It's like your biggest day?
Yeah, 4.7. 4.7.
And
Yeah.
who's your biggest customer in that? Who's taking most of the water of that?
The boat basin uses a lot. We do have an individual homeowner out in the Cisco area that uses a lot.
But why is that?
What about Bartlett Farm?
No, they have, that we only supply water to the store there. They have their own well to irrigate. Same as the golf courses. We supply water to Myacomet Golf Clubhouse, but they
Yep.
have their own irrigation.
Thank you.
Mark, how much rain do we have to get out of level 2 drought? 'Cause it seems like we've gotten a lot, at least Stellar has said we have.
Yeah, I think we're still a long way away. You know, we're probably at one point, we're off like close to 20 inches.
Oh,
So
wow.
this month, it's helped a lot, and I think the forecast is gonna continue to give us some rain here and there. And, you know, I think we're gonna be okay when we get to the spring, but I just had to prepare these numbers in case that was to happen. I didn't wanna get myself in a position where I was counting on revenue and then not having it.
Yep. It's prudent. Thank you. Peter and then Stephen?
Just out of curiosity, Mark, what is this person in Cisco doing to use all that water?
Believe it or not, some people are using our water for geothermal. Instead of driving wells, they just use our water.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Stephen?
Mark, in years past, you've talked about not being able to potentially meet the peak demands. We have the new well coming online soon. Do you think we're out of the woods in that respect? Do you think you're gonna be able to?
Yeah, so we're gonna,
move forward?
Stephen, we're close, yeah, we're close to our permit now. I get a little wiggle room within the current permit we have, but the minute that new well is approved, we'll get the additional gallons we can pump will come with that new well. So once we get that, we should be good.
And just because it'll be an interesting data point in the future, how long do you think that will take care of us?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm already planning on another well in the state forest.
As we sit in the shadow of the fire station, I think the day they moved into this one in 1980, it was already too small. So that's how things go. So good for you, Mark.
Yeah.
Out of it.
Any other questions for Mark?
Jeremy.
Jeremy?
Yes, Mark, I was just curious, the aquifer, when it rains locally in Nantucket, does that rainwater actually go into our aquifer? Or is the aquifer from New England?
No. There's no magic river from the White Mountains coming down to us. It's all of our, it's our own bowl of water that's all from the participation that falls on the island, the rain and the snow.
Okay.
I forget the exact number. It's billions and billions of gallons of recharge. So when I tell you we had a biggest year ever by taking out 730 or 740 million gallons last year, well, the aquifer received probably 4 or 5 billion gallons of water. So we're not even close to being anywhere where we're taking out more than that's coming in. You know, in fact, if you go out to Monomoy at low tide, you see the birds drinking the water that's flowing out of the beach. Birds don't drink salt water. That's fresh water pouring out of the aquifer onto the beach. Bowls full.
That's very reassuring, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay. Thank you, Mark, and thanks for being flexible and coming today and being patient. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, Article 1. We're turning this over to Libby or Brian, Maria.
I guess Libby, I guess. I don't know.
Standard article to accept the reports of the town. It's basically the annual town report.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you.
Can we do them all in time?
Can,
No.
no.
Second,
Okay, so Chris, yeah. So Chris made the motion to adopt. Jeremy seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Jeremy,
aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill, Chris, Rob, Stephen?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Denise, I. Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, John.
I'm sorry. But I don't see any reason why you couldn't vote more than one article for
Okay,
adoption.
which ones can I lump together, John?
You could lump all of them together if you wanted to. Think the consent agenda at town meeting, or you could do them in blocks of 10, whatever you think is comfortable for the committee. But if you're talking about relatively routine, non-controversial articles, I don't see any reason why you can't have a single motion to adopt articles X, Y, and Z.
Okay. Let's get through 5 and 7 singly, because I think Curtis wants to say something about Article 7 based on an email I got today. And then I will do 63 through 91, or I'll call out the numbers, and we can do those as a block if everybody's okay with that. Do I see nodding of head to say we can go all of those? Okay, so bear with me on 5. So,
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Article 5, as we discussed on Saturday, is the appropriation for the reserve fund. We are recommending that $500,000 be raised and appropriated from the fiscal 2025 tax levy and other general revenues of the town to establish the reserve fund for fiscal 2025.
thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian? Chris?
It comes over here just for new folks. If it's not used, it goes into free cash, right, Brian?
That's correct.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Brian? May I have a motion? Stephen made the motion.
Second.
Joanna seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none. Joe?
Aye.
Joanna?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
Chris? Rob? Peter?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
Denise, I. Okay, thank you. Okay, Brian, personnel compensation plans for 2025, or Libby?
Just a few updates to this, mostly market adjustments in the Schedule A, the miscellaneous schedule. And the select board has a modest increase, and the increase for the town clerk, which is from the comp and class study.
Okay, thank you. Curtis, did you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you, Curtis Barnes. I have been looking at compensation in other communities. And for example, Barnstable pays their counselors $8,000, which is sort of expenses. And Newburyport pays $9,000. So my suggestion is that the chair be increased to 7,500 and the board members to 6,000 in Nantucket.
Okay, so Curtis, my observation on this is what the select board agreed to, the numbers that are in the warrant. And this would be a policy decision by the select board. So I think your option is to bring it up at a select board meeting, and or to bring it up as an amendment on the meeting, on town floor meeting,
I'm
because
just
finance
offering
committee.
that information because I've been
Thank you.
studying this Northampton as
Yep.
well.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's really not within the remit of the finance committee to adjust salaries of the select
I'd like
board.
to let you know what I think.
Thank you. And that's why I called it out separately, so you could.
Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Okay, so standing as it is, may I have a motion
Motion to adopt.
from Peter? May I have a second?
Second.
From Joanna? Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, Joanna?
Aye.
Joe? Oh, Joe?
Aye.
Oh, thank you. I didn't hear you. Jeremy?
Aye.
Jill?
Aye.
I get all the J's together. Chris? Rob? Stephen?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Denise, I. It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so now we are going to make a motion in bulk, and I will read out the numbers of the articles. 63, 67, 69, 73, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 91. And not hearing any comment.
Madam Chair, that's a motion to adopt. Is that correct?
I was reading out the articles and then I was going to ask for the motion, John.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right, John. Keep me on the straight and narrow here.
To adopt the articles.
Thank you for,
Second.
okay. Sorry, did we have a question?
Joe.
Joe, you had a question?
On Article 69, are there actual maps of the different areas that are tied together in this? Do the maps exist or not?
Vince Murphy can answer that. Vince? Please, Vince.
Thank you very much. Vince Murphy for the Natural Resources Department. I'm the Sustainability Programs Manager. Before this article got finished in text form, we had it submitted. We have a map that shows all the islands as the islands for the islands coastal resilience districts for plural. And that would make one large district for the entire island. The map has been generated. It is effectively Nantucket Island, Tuckernuck and Muskeget all in one.
Okay.
It's all there as one block. And then we cannot effectively make the maps for the sub-districts yet because we don't know them, because it's a kind of a community-driven thing. We need people to come to us to say, we'd like to have a sub-district here so that we can have a benefits area here and pay our operation and maintenance through this fund. So yes, it's been generated for the map, but I was too late sending it to town administration, to Libby. I sent it about 2 days too late.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Where would, if anybody wanted to see the map, where would is it online? Is it on the town websites?
I don't think it is yet.
Okay, not yet.
It's effectively the entirety of.
Oh, it's all of Nantucket.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Joe, go ahead.
Madam Chair, that answers my question. And are we, if I heard the gentleman correctly, there are going to be sub-districts, which are those that benefit from, let's say, Baxter Road. Is there going to be a sub-district related to the replacement of Baxter Road if that becomes available, becomes necessary?
Vince, do you want to explain how you get to be a sub-district?
Yes, I can. And thank you
Please.
for the question from my absolute favorite place on Nantucket. So yes, it could be. There's a couple of different ways that I can bring it a sub-district. If it's mentioned in the Coastal Resilience Plan for the sake of argument. So throughout the CRP, there's places like Hulbert Ave, Easton Street, all of Maddocket, Sheep Pond Road, you name it. If it's got a coastal risk, it's in there. But if, say, a smaller grouping of homeowners wanted to approach the town, Baxter Road or anywhere, frankly, then they could say, yes, we'd like to do a coastal resilience district in this area. We'd assess the risk and the need, and then see if it needed to be progressed. Then they would enter to be a mapped area. They would then have to go to select board to get that approval in conjunction with the town. And they may also have to go to the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee to get their okay, to see if it all makes sense, then bring it to other committees like the Finance Committee to see if it makes sense, but go through the correct procedure. So in essence, the answer is yes, but there will be a set method.
So it would really be up to the residents of Baxter Road, or for example, the residents of Codfish Park, if they wanted to band together and become a sub-district.
Yes, or if there was something from the CRP that was comparable, either or.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Did that answer your question, Joe?
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna.
I just want to say that from the meetings with the Coastal Resiliency Committee and some of the conversations that we had, I'm just going to piggyback on Vince. It was our feeling that dividing the island up into small groups, and because this is for the purpose of assessing betterments, that that might not be completely fair to everybody. And so I don't think at this point it was their position that would be something they would recommend, like dividing us into small groups. That the island would be considered as one district for right now.
Thank you, Joanna. Okay. All right, Chris?
Can you read the numbers again? I don't
Sure.
know what I'm voting on here. My meeting feels like we're going a little fast.
It was in the agenda that was sent out, so it's our agenda for today
So you're just going in order of the ones.
that are listed on our agenda,
Thank you.
okay? So I can read them out again.
No, that's okay. I have it in front of me now.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. You're all set, Vince. Thank you. I think you're all set.
So. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so because Maria does such a good job of posting every agenda, what articles are speaking, I don't email them to you separately, assuming that you all click on the agenda for the day. Just sorry if you were expecting, I'm sorry if you were expecting me to send them. I just assumed that you do like I do because I have a list, but then I have to be reminded, and Maria always reminds me by putting it in the agenda. So as a point of working together, I think it's easiest if you just click on the agenda.
Yeah, it is. I just have limited access to the town email. I find it hard to access the town email.
Oh, you are?
So I can only get to it from time to time. It's fine.
Okay.
But you can get it right on the invitation to come. It's on the agenda's posted.
On the town website, I think is the easiest one.
Yeah, I go out to finance committee, and then I look at meetings and agendas, and I click on and pick the day.
Yeah.
That's what I do. Yeah.
I can't tell from the meeting calendar invites if we have the in-person option or not. So as long as we're all confessing our tech troubles. Is that what we're doing?
No, we were confessing what are we doing today kind of things. Yeah. I mean, previously I have sent out which articles are which day, but I send it out versus the town email. So if you can't get to it, then yeah. Okay. Now that I've called them out once, is somebody going to make a motion for all of these articles?
We have a motion and second already.
We do?
And we discussed. Yeah, we both think so.
Oh, who made the motion to adopt?
No,
No, we didn't make a motion to adopt on this bulk yet, because that's why John asked.
Somebody, that's why
we did. We did.
Okay,
Let's do it again.
let's do it again, because I didn't get who did it. So
I'll do it this time.
thank you.
Motion to adopt. Oh, yeah, I did. To adopt all the articles that Denise read.
Who's this? Okay, Stephen made the motion and Peter seconded. Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? No, good. Okay, I'm going to start with in-room people this time. Jill. Chris.
Aye.
Rob. Stephen.
Aye.
Peter.
Aye.
Joe.
Aye.
Joanna.
Aye.
Jeremy.
Aye.
Denise, aye. Those all passed unanimously. Okay. The date of next meeting is Monday, February 5th at 4 o'clock. It is in the community room.
Yeah.
Whoa. So it's a public hearing. What we will be doing is going through article by article and asking if anybody has anything to say. In addition, I've also invited to make sure we have the sponsors of the rental car. Rebecca McCrensky for the rental car Article 65. We also have the short-term rental articles. So Michael Kopko and Stephen Cohen and obviously the select board will also be attending, representative to talk about those articles. So we will definitely work through those articles in addition to any other one that someone from the public would like to discuss on Monday. So Monday might be a longer day, just to warn everybody. And we're at the community room.
Still 4 o'clock.
And it's still 4 o'clock. So, okay.
Denise, can we get a Zoom invitation for that as well?
It's a webinar, so the link will come from Nantucket TV, and I send them the list. I'm guessing they will send it either tomorrow or Monday during the day.
Very good.
It comes from, yeah, because it's broadcast, Jeremy. So it'll come from Nantucket NCTV.
Okay, so we won't challenge my technical capabilities.
Never, Jeremy, not at all. So everybody's very tech savvy here. It's not an issue. Pardon?
You will be able to.
Yeah, there is remote participation, yes. So for the finance committee, you have to have a panelist. But for the members of the public, they come in via Zoom. Is that correct?
So for the members of the public, the link will be posted on the agenda. which
Okay.
Already is.
Right.
And then for the FinCom members, they should receive the invite for the webinar.
Right.
As a panelist.
As a panelist.
But even if you don't receive it, you can still use the link on the post agenda and I can make you a panelist during the meeting.
Is that clear to everybody?
Was there an invite paper today? I didn't see it.
It was last week, I think.
It was last week?
Yes,
Yeah, I
it's
think
always 2 weeks
I think
before.
Yeah, 2 weeks before.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it was last week. Okay, any other business? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Peter made the
Second.
motion, second from Jeremy, and roll call, Joe,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Chris, Rob, Stephen, Peter,
Aye.
Denise, I thank you, everybody. As always, thank you very much for the help and support. We'll see you on Monday. Okay.